The seafloor mapping drone wasn't supposed to find anything unusual. It was a routine survey of the Mariana Trench, part of Dr. Sarah Chen's ongoing research into deep-sea geological formations. But as she stared at the holographic display in the control room of the research vessel Horizon, she knew this discovery would change everything. "That's not a natural formation," her colleague Dr. Marcus Rodriguez said, adjusting his glasses as he leaned closer to the display. The three-dimensional scan showed a perfect hexagonal structure embedded in the ocean floor, its edges too precise to be shaped by nature. Sarah zoomed in on the image, her heart racing. The structure was massive, nearly a kilometer wide, and completely smooth except for what appeared to be intricate patterns etched into its surface. Most remarkably, their instruments detected no signs of corrosion or biological growth, despite its apparent age. "How deep?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer from her instruments. 11,000 meters, Marcus replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "Right at the bottom of the trench. And Sarah, it's emitting energy." The Horizon's sophisticated sensors had detected a faint but steady energy signature emanating from the structure. It was unlike anything they'd ever encountered, defying conventional physics. The reading suggested the object had been active all this time, waiting in the darkness of Earth's deepest ocean. Within hours, the discovery sparked a global response. The UN Security Council convened an emergency session. Military vessels from various nations converged on their location, but for once, they weren't there to fight. They came to protect what might be humanity's greatest discovery. Dr. Chen found herself briefing admirals and scientists from a dozen nations in the Horizon's conference room. "The structure appears to be made of an unknown alloy," she explained, gesturing to the detailed scans. "Its composition doesn't match any known material on Earth. And these markings," she highlighted the intricate patterns covering the surface. "They show signs of mathematical precision. They're not decorative. They're functional." Admiral Helena Santos of the International Maritime Coalition leaned forward. "What kind of function?" Before Sarah could answer, a low vibration rumbled through the ship. The holographic display flickered, then stabilized, showing new data. The energy signature from the structure had intensified. "It's activating." Sarah looked around the room, seeing the same mix of fear and determination on every face. Humanity had just learned they were refugees, descendants of an advanced civilization. But they were also inheritors of an ancient legacy, and Earth's last line of defense against a threat they barely understood. Admiral Santos straightened her uniform and stepped forward. "How long do we have?" "The Void Hunters will reach this solar system in 6 months," the custodian replied. "We must prepare. Your scientists must learn our technology. Your soldiers must master our weapons. Your leaders must unite as never before." Sarah felt a strange calm settle over her. This was why she'd always looked to the stars with longing, why humanity had dreamed of space since they first looked up at the night sky. They weren't just reaching for the unknown. They were trying to find their way home. "We'll need to coordinate with every major research institution and military force on Earth," she said, already forming plans. "And we'll need to do it without causing global panic." The custodian nodded. "That is wise. But remember, the greatest strength of humanity has always been your ability to face impossible odds and prevail. You carry the legacy of star-born warriors in your blood. It's time to awaken it." As if in response to these words, the platform began to transform. Sections shifted and reconfigured, revealing training facilities, laboratories, and weapon systems beyond human understanding. Humanity's crash course in advanced technology was about to begin, and Earth's destiny hung in the balance. They had 6 months to prepare for a war they never knew was coming, using technology they barely understood. But as Sarah watched military personnel and scientists already beginning to organize and adapt, she knew humanity would face this challenge as they had faced every other, with determination, ingenuity, and an unwavering will to survive. 3 months after the Guardian Station's emergence, The Pacific Ocean had become the center of humanity's greatest technological revolution. A sprawling complex of floating platforms surrounded the ancient structure, housing thousands of scientists and military personnel from across the globe. Dr. Sarah Chen no longer saw the sun rise over water. The horizon was now dominated by testing ranges where prototype vessels powered by recovered technology demonstrated impossible maneuvers. Today, she stood in the station's central command chamber, watching as the latest group of pilot candidates interfaced with the neural simulation pods. The custodian had explained that humanity's ancestors had developed technology that merged consciousness with their machines, creating bonds far deeper than simple pilot and vessel relationships. Neural synchronization improving by 12%, Marcus reported from his station. This group is adapting faster than the previous ones. The custodian's form shimmered into existence beside them. As expected, each generation of humanity carries the genetic memory of their ancestors. Your bodies remember what your minds have forgotten. Sarah watched as holographic displays showed the pilot's vital signs and neural patterns. In the simulation, they were learning to control vessels that could manipulate gravity itself, weapons that could reshape matter at the quantum level. It should have taken decades to master such technology, but humanity was proving remarkably adaptable. 3 months, Admiral Santos said, entering the chamber. She looked tired but determined. We're halfway to the deadline, and the Security Council is demanding updates. How ready are we? The custodian's form shifted, displaying a tactical overview of Earth's defensive preparations. The first wave of defensive satellites is operational. Production of Mark I interceptors proceeds at optimal efficiency. However, the being paused, its light patterns showing concern. We have detected an anomaly. Everyone in the chamber tensed. They'd learned that when the custodian showed concern, the situation was dire indeed. Explain, Santos ordered. The Void Hunter's advanced scouts are arriving ahead of schedule. A small group has entered the Kuiper Belt. They are investigating. Sarah felt her blood run cold. How many? 3 vessels, each approximately 2 kilometers in length. They are using quantum scanning technology to map the solar system. At their current velocity, they will detect our defensive preparations in approximately 72 hours. Admiral Santos immediately activated the command center's emergency protocols. How much of our defense network is actually combat-ready? 37% of planned installations are operational, the custodian replied. Enough to mount a defense, but victory against even this small force is not guaranteed. These are not the mindless destroyers your ancestors faced. The Void Hunters have evolved, adapted. They learn from every civilization they consume. Sarah studied the tactical display, noting the positions of the alien vessels. We need more time. Is there any way to mask our preparations? The custodian's form brightened slightly, their equivalent of approval. There may be. Your ancestors developed quantum camouflage technology. With modifications, we could extend it to cover the entire defense grid. However, the power requirements would be enormous. What would it take? Marcus asked. We would need to bring the station's primary reactor to full power for the first time since its activation. The risk of detection would be high, but brief. If timed correctly, we could mask our preparations behind the energy signature of Jupiter's magnetosphere. Admiral Santos didn't hesitate. Do it. I'll inform the Security Council. Dr. Chen, Dr. Rodriguez, prepare your teams. If we're powering up ancient technology for the first time in millennia, I want our best people monitoring every detail. The next 48 hours became a blur of activity. Sarah found herself coordinating with teams around the world as they prepared for the station's full activation. The custodian guided them through systems that defied their understanding of physics, teaching them to harness energies that could reshape reality itself. As the moment of activation approached, Sarah stood with Marcus in the station's reactor control center. The chamber hummed with power, ancient machinery awakening fully for the first time in thousands of years. Ready for primary ignition, Marcus announced, his hand steady on the controls despite the pressure. The custodian's form appeared, spread across multiple stations. Begin the sequence. Remember, timing is crucial. We must synchronize with Jupiter's next magnetic storm precisely. Sarah watched as energy levels climbed. The station's superstructure vibrated slightly as power flowed through systems dormant for millennia. On the main display, they could track the Void Hunter vessels, now less than a day from detecting their activities. Quantum field generators at 60%, Marcus reported. 70, 80. Warning alarms suddenly blared. The reactor's containment field fluctuated, power levels spiking dangerously. The primary cooling system is failing, Sarah announced, her fingers flying over the controls. The load is too much for the secondary systems. The custodian's form flickered. The system was designed for regular maintenance. After so long, Sarah made a split-second decision. Reroute power through the auxiliary grid. We'll use the ocean itself as a heat sink. That was not part of the original design, the custodian warned. No, but it's what we have. Marcus, help me modify the containment protocols. We need to adapt the system to work with what's available, not what it was designed for. This was humanity's strength, the ability to improvise, to find solutions where none seemed to exist. As Sarah and Marcus worked, other teams around the station joined in, offering suggestions and implementing modifications in real time. The reactor stabilized. Power flowed. And across the solar system, a quantum veil descended, hiding humanity's preparations from the approaching scouts. It worked. Marcus breathed, checking the readings. They can't see us. The custodian's form studied the modifications they'd made. Fascinating. You didn't simply repair the system. You improved it. This adaptation, it would never have occurred to your ancestors. They built for perfection, but you build for survival. Admiral Santos entered the control room, her expression grave. The scouts will move on, but now we know they're ahead of schedule. How long before the main fleet arrives? At their current velocity. The custodian paused. 4 weeks, perhaps less. Sarah looked at the tactical display, watching the scout ships move through their solar system. They'd bought some time, but at a cost. Now they knew for certain that humanity's greatest test would come sooner than expected. Then we have 4 weeks to ready our defenses, Santos said, and to prove that humanity isn't just surviving anymore. We're ready to take our place among the stars, whether the Void Hunters like it or not. 2 weeks after the quantum veil deployment, the Guardian Station had transformed into humanity's first true space warfare academy. The massive structure now extended above the ocean's surface, its upper levels reaching into the stratosphere. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the Advanced Combat Training Chamber, watching as the latest breakthrough unfolded before her. Neural synchronization at 115%, Marcus announced, his voice tight with excitement. They're exceeding the historical baseline. In the center of the chamber, Lieutenant Maya Patel floated in a suspension field, her mind linked to a prototype defense craft. Unlike previous pilots who struggled to maintain deep neural connections, Maya had achieved something unprecedented. She wasn't just controlling the ship, she had become it. The custodian's form appeared, its light patterns showing intense interest. This shouldn't be possible. The neural interfaces were designed with strict limitations to protect human consciousness. Maybe that's the problem, Sarah suggested, studying the data streams. We're not just recreating your technology. We're adapting it to work with how humans think now. Maya isn't fighting the interface. She's embracing it completely. On the testing range, Maya's ship performed maneuvers that defied conventional physics. The vessel seemed to anticipate threats before they appeared, responding to the combat simulation with impossible precision. Admiral Santos watched from her command station, her expression thoughtful. Can we replicate this? Better, Marcus replied. Maya's neural pattern is already teaching the system how to interface more effectively with human minds. The next group of pilots should be able to achieve similar results with less effort. The Admiral nodded slowly. 2 weeks until the main fleet arrives. How many ships can we have combat-ready by then? The custodian's form shifted, displaying a tactical overlay. With this breakthrough, we can accelerate pilot training significantly. Combined with automated production facilities, we should have 37 primary combat vessels and approximately 200 interceptors. Against a fleet of thousands, Santos said grimly. Quality over quantity. Maya's voice came through the comm system, still linked to her ship. These vessels can rewrite local spacetime. We might be outnumbered, but we're not outmatched. Sarah was about to respond when new alarms blared throughout the station. The tactical display shifted, showing a massive energy surge at the edge of the solar system. Multiple quantum ruptures detected, Marcus reported, his fingers flying over the controls. They're not waiting. The main fleet is arriving now. The custodian's form expanded, analyzing the incoming data. Impossible. They've developed new drive technology. The stellar calculations were based on their previous capabilities. Admiral Santos was already activating global defense protocols. How long? At their current velocity, 36 hours until they reach Earth orbit. The chamber erupted into activity. Sarah watched as Maya's ship docked, the lieutenant emerging with a determined expression. Around them, the station's systems began automatic combat preparations. We're not ready, Marcus said, voicing what everyone was thinking. No, Sarah agreed, but we have something they don't expect. She turned to the custodian. You said the neural interface was designed with limitations to protect human consciousness. What happens if we remove those limitations entirely? The custodian's form flickered with concern. The risk would be extreme. Without safeguards, human minds could become permanently merged with the ship's systems. The psychological impact would be. Would it work? Santos interrupted. Theoretically, yes. The ships would respond faster, more intuitively. But the pilots would never be the same. The merger of human consciousness with quantum-scale technology would create something entirely new. Maya stepped forward. I volunteer. As do I. Came voices from around the chamber. Other pilots who had been observing the tests stood ready, understanding the magnitude of what they were offering. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. This was more than adaptation. It was evolution. Humanity wasn't just learning to use their ancestors' technology. They were about to transcend it. Begin the modifications, Santos ordered, but only with volunteers and only after they understand exactly what they're risking. The next 24 hours transformed the Guardian Station into something its creators had never envisioned. Sarah and Marcus worked with the custodian to remove the neural interface limitations, while Maya led the first group of volunteers through the enhanced synchronization process. The results were staggering. The merged pilot ships demonstrated capabilities that stunned even the custodian. They could perceive and react to quantum-level changes in spacetime, coordinate with each other through a shared consciousness that transcended normal communication, and manipulate the fabric of reality in ways the original designers had never imagined. They're not just flying the ships anymore, Marcus observed, watching the training exercises. They're redefining what's possible. The custodian's form studied the modified vessels with growing amazement. Your ancestors built these systems with careful restrictions, believing that merging too deeply with technology would cost them their humanity. But you embrace it, and in doing so, become more than either human or machine. Sarah watched as the merged pilot ships performed their final training maneuvers. They moved like a single organism, their actions synchronized at the quantum level. These weren't just humanity's defenders. They were the next step in human evolution, born from necessity and courage. 12 hours until contact, Santos announced. Are they ready? Maya's voice came through the comm, now carrying harmonics that seemed to echo from dimensions beyond normal space. We're ready. The Void Hunters think they're coming to harvest a primitive species. Let's show them how humanity adapts. Around the world, the remaining conventional forces moved into position. The quantum veil had been dropped. There was no more need for secrecy. Humanity would face this threat head-on, with everything they had. Sarah stood at her station, monitoring the merged pilot's neural patterns. They were stable, but transformed. Whether this transformation would save humanity or change it forever remained to be seen. The custodian's form appeared beside her. In all our civilization's history, we never dared to attempt what you have achieved in mere weeks. Perhaps this is why the Cedars chose Earth. They saw in humanity a potential even they didn't possess. Above them, the first of the evolved combat vessels moved into orbital positions. They carried within them pilots who had volunteered to become something more than human, ready to defend their world against an enemy that had hunted their kind across galaxies. The final battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity had rewritten the rules of engagement. The Void Hunters arrived like a storm of black stars, their massive ships darkening the space around Earth's orbit. Dr. Sarah Chen watched from the Guardian Station's command center as the enemy fleet emerged from quantum space, their vessels absorbing light itself. 5,000+ hostile contacts, Marcus reported, his voice steady despite the overwhelming odds. Their energy signatures are shifting. They're adapting to our defensive grid already. The custodian's form expanded across multiple displays, analyzing the incoming threat. Their evolution has exceeded predictions. These are not the same hunters your ancestors faced. Admiral Santos stood at the central command station, her expression resolute. Maya, status of the merged fleet. We are ready. Maya's voice resonated through the quantum communications network, carrying echoes of the 30 other pilots who had undergone the transformation. Their consciousness now existed across multiple dimensions, linked to their ships in ways that defied conventional understanding. The Void Hunters' first attack came without warning. Beams of dark energy lanced toward Earth's atmosphere, designed to disable planetary defenses. But humanity's evolved pilots were already moving. Maya's squadron shifted through quantum space, their vessels phasing in and out of reality as they intercepted the attack. The dark energy beams scattered harmlessly against shields that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Impossible, the custodian's form flickered with surprise. They're manipulating quantum fields in ways we never conceived. Sarah watched as the battle unfolded across her displays. The merged pilots moved with impossible coordination, their ships dancing through space in patterns that seemed to bend reality itself. Where the Void Hunters attacked with overwhelming force, humanity's defenders responded with innovation and adaptability. They're targeting the Guardian Station, Marcus announced as a group of enemy capital ships broke formation, detecting energy buildup consistent with their main weapons. Admiral Santos squared her shoulders. Initiate Protocol Omega. Maya, your team has clearance for full quantum engagement. Sarah held her breath as she watched the merged pilots respond. Their ships began to move in ways that shouldn't have been possible, creating geometric patterns in space that seemed to fold in on themselves. The Void Hunters' energy weapons fired, but the shots curved away, caught in artificial gravity wells that shouldn't have existed. The neural merger, Sarah realized, studying the data streams. They're not just flying the ships, they're rewriting the local laws of physics. The custodian's form shifted rapidly between displays, trying to analyze what was happening. This transcends the original technology. Your pilots are accessing quantum states we never knew existed. The battle intensified as the Void Hunters deployed their secondary fleets. Thousands of smaller vessels swarmed toward Earth, their hulls morphing to adapt to each defense they encountered. But humanity's transformed defenders adapted faster. Maya's voice echoed through the command center, now carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate with space-time itself. We see their patterns. They evolve through destruction, learning from what they consume. But we evolve through understanding, through unity. The merged pilots demonstrated this unity as they fought. Their ships moved in perfect synchronization, creating defensive formations that looked like mandalas of light against the darkness of space. Where the Void Hunters attacked with brute force, humanity's defenders responded with precision and creativity. Their main fleet is pulling back, Marcus reported, surprise evident in his voice. They're regrouping. The custodian's form stabilized, showing signs of what might have been hope. They've never encountered resistance like this. Their adaptation relies on predictable responses, on technologies they can analyze and counter. But your pilots, we're not bound by the old rules anymore. Maya's voice resonated. We are becoming something new with each moment, each engagement. They can't predict what we don't yet know ourselves. But victory was far from assured. Even as humanity's defenders held their ground, the Void Hunters were changing their tactics. Their ships began to merge, combining into larger forms that pulsed with dark energy. Energy spike, Marcus shouted. They're channeling power from multiple vessels into a single weapon system. Sarah watched in horror as the combined Void Hunter fleet generated a beam of pure darkness, aimed directly at Earth. The weapon fired, a lance of anti-light that threatened to tear through every defense. Maya's squadron moved as one, their ships arranging themselves in a pattern that seemed to draw power from dimensions beyond normal space. We are humanity's shield, their combined voices declared, and we will not break. The merged pilots didn't just block the attack. They caught it, their quantum-enhanced consciousness allowing them to perceive and manipulate the very fabric of reality. The beam of darkness twisted, curved, and finally dispersed into harmless energy. That's impossible, the custodian stated, its form flickering rapidly. They channeled enough power to destroy a planet. Nothing is impossible anymore, Sarah replied, watching as the merged pilots pressed their advantage. We're not just using the old technology. We're transcending it. Every moment of this battle, every interaction with the enemy, pushes us further beyond what we thought were our limits. Admiral Santos studied the tactical displays, her expression both proud and concerned. The question is, how far can we push before we lose ourselves completely? The battle continued to rage across Earth's orbit, but something had fundamentally changed. The Void Hunters, for the first time in their long history of conquest, faced an enemy that evolved faster than they could adapt. An enemy that didn't just fight back, but transformed with each engagement. Yet Sarah could see the cost of this evolution in the neural readings from the merged pilots. Their consciousness was expanding, becoming something that might not be recognizable as human much longer. The final phase of the battle would determine not just humanity's survival, but its very nature. The battle had raged for 6 hours when Dr. Sarah Chen noticed the change. The merged pilots' neural patterns were shifting again, but this time it was different. They weren't just adapting to fight the Void Hunters. They were beginning to perceive something fundamental about the nature of their enemy. They're not destroyers. Maya's voice resonated through the quantum comm, carrying new understanding. They're running. All this time, they've been running. The custodian's form flickered with surprise. Running? From what? Through the battle-scarred space around Earth, the Void Hunters continued their assault, but their attacks had become increasingly desperate. Their ships combined and separated in complex patterns, trying to find some advantage against humanity's transformed defenders. From the end of everything, Maya explained, her consciousness now spanning multiple dimensions. We can see it in their quantum signature. They're refugees, just like our ancestors were. They destroy worlds not out of malice, but fear. They consume civilizations to gain the energy and knowledge needed to stay ahead of something worse. Sarah's hands flew across her console, analyzing the data streams from the merged pilots. She's right. Look at their energy patterns. They're not just weapons, they're containers. They're storing the essence of everything they destroy. The custodian's form expanded as it processed this revelation. In all our history, we never understood. We saw only the destruction they caused, never the reason behind it. Admiral Santos stepped forward. What are they running from? The answer came not from Maya, but from the Void Hunters themselves. Their fleet suddenly shifted formation, their ships arranging themselves in a pattern that pulsed with dark energy. But this time, it wasn't an attack, it was a message. Images filled the command center, showing a wave of pure entropy spreading across the universe. Entire galaxies winked out of existence as space-time itself unraveled. The Void Hunters had been fleeing this apocalypse for millions of years, consuming civilizations to gain the strength and knowledge needed to survive. They're not here to destroy us, Sarah realized. They're here because they detected our quantum manipulation. They think we might have the answer they've been seeking. Marcus checked his readings. Their fleet is powering down weapons. They're waiting. Maya's squadron held position, their transformed consciousness allowing them to maintain quantum barriers around Earth while simultaneously engaging in this moment of understanding. We don't have to be enemies, her multi-layered voice declared. We can face this together. The custodian's form shifted rapidly between displays. The merging of human consciousness with quantum technology. It's created something unprecedented. You're not just flying ships or manipulating space-time. You're becoming aware of the fundamental forces that shape reality itself. Sarah watched as Maya's consciousness expanded further, reaching out to the Void Hunters not in conflict, but in communion. The enemy fleet responded, their dark ships resonating with new frequencies that matched the quantum harmonics of humanity's defenders. The answer isn't in running or destroying. Maya's voice carried the wisdom of her transformed state. It's in transformation, in evolution. We can show them a new way. Admiral Santos stepped forward. What are you proposing? A merge, Maya replied. Not of conquest, but of cooperation. The Void Hunters have knowledge gathered from thousands of civilizations. We have the ability to transcend conventional limitations. Together, we might find a way to stop the entropy wave itself. The command center fell silent as the implications became clear. This wasn't just about saving Earth or humanity. It was about saving the universe itself. The Void Hunters had been gathering the knowledge and energy of civilizations in hopes of finding a solution. Now, humanity's unprecedented evolution might hold the key. The risks are enormous, the custodian warned. A merge of this scale, between such different forms of consciousness. We're already transformed, Maya responded, and we choose to transform further, not out of fear or desperation, but out of hope. This is humanity's true strength. We don't just adapt to survive, we evolve to thrive. Sarah watched as the merged pilots initiated contact with the Void Hunter fleet. The space around Earth lit up with quantum energies as two vastly different forms of consciousness began to interact. The Void Hunters' dark ships and humanity's evolved vessels started moving in synchronized patterns, creating geometric forms that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. It's working, Marcus reported, his voice filled with awe. The quantum signatures are harmonizing. They're teaching each other. The custodian's form pulsed with what might have been pride. Your ancestors flood from this threat. You face it head-on and offer salvation not just to yourselves, but to those you thought were enemies. This is why Earth was chosen. This is why humanity was preserved. As the merge continued, new understanding flowed both ways. The Void Hunters shared the knowledge of countless civilizations, while humanity's transformed pilots showed them new ways to perceive and manipulate reality. Together, they began to comprehend the true nature of the entropy wave and how it might be stopped. We are becoming something new, Maya's voice echoed, now carrying harmonics of both human and Void Hunter consciousness. Not human, not hunter, but guardians. Protectors of existence itself. Sarah watched as the combined fleet began to move in patterns that rewrote the very fabric of space-time. They weren't just fighting against the end of everything. They were learning to renew reality itself. The transformed pilots and reformed hunters were becoming architects of existence. And so humanity takes its first true steps into the cosmos. The custodian observed, not as conquerors or refugees, but as saviors. The children of Earth have become the guardians of all. Above their world, the new alliance began its work, preparing to face the greatest threat to existence itself, Humanity had not only survived its trial by fire, it had transformed it into an opportunity for universal salvation. The age of running and hiding was over. The age of guardianship had begun.